As of December, a new Japanese legal amendment has made it illegal to resell digital game keys without explicit consent from software makers. The new set of rules are part of a revision to the Unfair Competition Prevention Act, which now recognizes data information recorded in electromagnetic record as a target for protection by law. While reselling has been somewhat of a gray area in the industry, it looks as though this revision will have more of an impact in models, since it specifically targets distribution of more tools and services. For example, Gadget's PlayStation 4 Save Editor is now discontinued on the official site, although it still seems to be available through other retailers. However, it's likely that sites that resell keys for discounts or facilitate reselling between individuals will now be affected too. While the official information on the new amendments is currently only available in Japanese, different translations of the 3 acts have now been banned, including, according to the translated information, punishments range from civil measures, such as claims for damages, to criminal penalties, including fines of up to $5,036,000 USD, up to at least 5 years in prison. Both 11-bit Studios has raised $500,000 for War Child United Kingdom by creating Charity DLC. This War of Mine in the 4 years since the game launched, the studio pledged to donate 100% of the cash from its charity DLC to a British organization, which is dedicated to helping children affected by conflict all around the world. Since then, over $500,000 has been donated to the cause, helping War Child deliver aid throughout countries including Afghanistan, Iraq, the Central African Republic, Democratic Republic of Congo and Yemen. The cash has allowed for the creation of 3 temporary learning spaces, allowing 260 children to carry on with their education and complete their school year, while also providing summer schooling to 475 students in Iraq. It has also helped place 26 unaccompanied children with foster families in the Central African Republic, facilitated the opening of a new fundraising arm at War Child that's dedicated to working with AMers, and granted 840 children aged 4 to 6 access to early childhood and care development in Kabul and Herat. If you have not already, you can support War Child United Kingdom directly by clicking this link, or by purchasing the This War of Mine Charity DLC on Steam. As games have evolved, so too have their characters, from simple to dual sprites, who were little more than placeholders to fully realized simulacrums of real people, with their own needs, motivations and agendas. Crafting these characters is an art form, especially in a medium that requires you to fully construct and model them from scratch, clothe them in believability, and imbue them with human characteristics that make us empathize with or love them. The tremendous amount of effort that goes into drive Frankenstein-ing a modern game character to life is rarely a solo effort, particularly on AAA projects, and usually requires the cooperation of multiple artists, writers, and designers. According to Chris Avellone, a veteran designer and writer who's contributed to a huge number of heavily narrative and character-driven RPGs, from Planescape, Torment and Fallout, New Vegas to Divinity, originals into building characters is often a democratic process, with a lot of input from multiple sources. It depends on the team, although it's usually very collaborative, which I prefer. Avellone told me, the way I prefer to do it is get the game's calculus and systems first, get any parameters for the game and game story. For example, Fallout New Vegas has a lot of the same pillars and constraints as Fallout 3, which is important to know. Script out the basic story, add to it, then use characters to reinforce the gameplay, the theme, a faction, or they can even be designed specifically to solve a story issue. I do not believe this man's concept originated from this, but the fact he could not be destroyed and kept coming back since he was a robot made him a perfect quest giver if you alienated everyone else, which is an important design choice than an important design role. From there, he prefers to begin by building the systems that will support a character, scaffolding like their class or race or abilities, and then flesh out a brief biography with those elements in mind. I then present the bio and reference art to a concept artist, and see what they come up with. Note that concept artists have a lot of work to do. If they are designing someone representative of a faction, they need to know how that faction lives, how they survive, their philosophy, where they live, etc. So it can be a very involved process. Of course, the cooperative nature of designing with a large team means sometimes compromising your normal creative flow. Different projects have different standards and processes, and some of those might have already been established if you jump in midstream into the bridge. Justin and Matthew started with a sentence or two, like hotshot, Avellone says, and Polina Hristova did the portraits. Then I came on with those in place. Matthew and I set up the points of reactivity for how and when the characters would respond, and I did writing based on both their look, scripting calls, and the summary, also taking into account what their powers were. Character system traits, I think, should be a strong factor in the design. Isaac's temporal reset ability into the bridge definitely affected his character design, since his nervous system was always slightly out of sync. But the reason for creating a character can be anything, really. Hey, I think a genuinely nice, celibate succubus would be fun to write. Became fall from grace in Torment. Dan Calvert, the character art director for Guerrilla Games, agrees that creating believable characters needs to be a collaborative process. Edgar Hill will rarely design anything in isolation, and characters are no exception. Calvert says, given that a lot of our art design work is in support of some other aspect of the game, the writing, the quest or combat design, a single character normally has a lot of stakeholders, and so feedback to them is pretty critical to making the design a success. That said, there is a sense of ownership of some characters for individual designers, though even those characters tend to grow and become fully realized in a cooperative environment. Characters who are central to the narrative, like Kabul or normally emerge from a writer's brain fully realized, and it's our task to use art design to support that intent and communicate it to the player. Our concept artists are pretty awesome, so they have rightly earned a lot of trust from the rest of the studio to own the process. Normally a single artist will be responsible for a given character, but as the team is open and collaborative, it's common for other artists to contribute through feedback and idea generation. But the approach to feedback is to raise issues rather than propose solutions, and the character designer is trusted to solve those issues on their own initiative. For Carrie Patel, the narrative co-led on Pillars of Eternity Second, Deadfire, the ideal recipe for character design is a similar, hybrid approach, where objectives are established at a high level, but meeting those objectives is left to individual writers and designers. You can definitely end up with too many cooks in the kitchen. Patel points out, especially when it comes to writing a character, what generally works best is when the writer and the leads establish high-level goals together, generally about the content the epi needs to point the player toward, the high-level storytelling the team wants to accomplish with the epi. Once those goals are established, the writer generally takes ownership of establishing the characterization and writing the dialogue. From there, they will iterate based on feedback from the leads and team, especially if some aspect of the character interaction is not clear or is not coming across as intended. Not unlike Avellone, Patel likes to be with a sense of the role a character is going to play in the larger narrative, and what the requirements of that character are. Some of the mechanical framework that then leads to more organic components like personality and backstory. I usually start with an understanding of what role the character is going to fill in the game. She explains, most characters begin with a design goal. Is this a companion who's going to assist the player character over the course of the game? And if so, what's their class? Is it a quest giver? And if so, what's the gist of their quest? Or is it a flavor character who's highlighting a particular detail about the level or setting? Patel says that from a basic premise, like wounded space marine in Mortal Peril, a merchant recruiting the player to sabotage the competition, an archetype develops and then is populated by the little details that make characters feel real and unique.